OpenAI has just released a brand new product called ChatGPT Pulse. Today on the podcast, we're going to be diving into this. Essentially, it is a tool that is going to create these new summaries, these news summaries, or it's going to go research stuff on your calendar. It can tie into your Google Calendar and give you information about things that you have going on for the day. Almost like an agent or an assistant that proactively goes out, does research, and gives it to you at the beginning of the day. Sam Altman has said he wants this to be something that's, instead of checking social media in the morning, you check your ChatGPT Pulse. So we're diving into this, and most of you on hearing this might be like, oh my gosh, I'm excited, I want to try it out. But the problem is it's only for the $200 a month tier. So lucky for all of you guys, Connor pays for the $200 a month ChatGPT Super Premium Turbo mode, and he has been using it. So Connor, what have you been seeing with this? Because I've been reading all sorts of interesting things, but I want to hear it straight from the horse's mouth.
I'm the sucker. I'm the sucker that's going to pay for this, and so that you all don't have to. I'm on that wall, Jaeden, so you don't have to be on that wall. Jaeden, what was the thing where it had like all these integrations with like Instacart that sort of like flopped early on? Do you remember? Like, I was wondering if
ChatGPT, that was the plugins, the ChatGPT
plugins. Thank you. I was trying to remember that. I didn't know. Jaeden and I were talking about this offline. We didn't know if this would be one of these things where it's just kind of a cool demo and then it flops. I saw Sam Altman, I think, tweet Jaeden that this was one of the things that he was most excited about, and I was like, all right, well, this is what I pay for, and I don't always, take advantage of the $200 a month thing. So let me just check. So I checked I updated my app this morning, checked it, and sure enough, there it was. And I'm like, okay, what is this thing? It's going to be dumb. Guys, I really love it. Okay. And here's what I really love about it. So I looked at the demo, and you guys have probably seen the demo online. If you haven't, you can obviously see it. But demos are like, I don't know. They're obviously cherry picking. They're obviously sort of like showing you what you want to see and everything like that. And it doesn't really matter until you actually use it yourself. So I opened it up and I was like, all right, what is this thing? And I see kind of what looks like the demo. It's all these really nice, what they call cards, which is just a visual image rather than just text. And the idea was that it was going to be, as Jaeden said, kind of tailored to you, right? It's going to be, working off your memory, and you tell what you're interested in. And I was looking at this, I was like, yep, this is just standard boilerplate. And then I kind of looked closer, Jaeden, and I was like, wait a minute, this is actually really tailored to me already. And because I have memory toggled on this account, it was saying, hey, I know you're interested in AI news or AI adoption. And hey, because of your big LinkedIn presence, you should really leverage that. Here's 3 articles on what's happening with LinkedIn these days. And here's how it could. I was like, Jaeden, it was picking up on, and this is one of the things, by the way, that I always wonder how these tech providers are going to figure this out. What's actually interesting to you? Now, I guess we could just go on sheer volume. You and I have talked about before, things that are interesting to you and me, like, AI news and our family and building businesses. And for you and me, it's faith as well. And it tends to grab that stuff and be like, hey, this is important to you. It was really amazingly it was really amazing in how it intuited what was important to me, and had articles. I was like, well, is this actually up to date? I clicked on it. Yep, it was from yesterday. I was just like, whoa. And it was like, hey, how are we doing? Like, do you want to curate this? I was like, yeah, actually, this isn't that interesting to me. That's just a thing I did one time, but this really is interesting to me. And I said, look, I'd really like the AI news in the morning. So one of the interesting things about this is that it's only going to do it once a day to avoid information overload. And I think that's really wise. Like, you might read a newsletter or listen to a podcast or something just once a day. That's it. It's just going to be that. But I just want to sort of say that right off the bat, usually when there's a huge gap between the demo and testing it. In fact, I've almost never experienced something where it shows me the demo and then I try it and it's that kind of thing. Sometimes maybe Canvas on OpenAI, I thought that was pretty cool. But Jaeden, right out of the gate, I got to tell you, this is not something I thought I'd be interested in at all. And I'm sort of psyched from it,
Well, that's fantastic. I'm actually happy to hear. When I first saw it, I was like, oh, this is amazing. And then I looked into it and I was like, oh, this is kind of whatever. And then fell somewhere in the middle between where I was like, okay, useful tool. I don't feel like it's insanely revolutionary. Like, basically the capabilities here are, there's other, like, anyone could do this leveraging OpenAI's tools. So it's not like a unique tool only that they could do. Like, I can imagine Perplexity or someone else could do this, just leveraging their models. However, I do think it's really useful, and I do think you make a great point on the memory side of things. It knows so much about you that it's able to make things that are actually useful for you versus things that are just sort of generic. Now, I would be curious to see how this plays out. I think at the end of the day, they're going to have to do some fine tuning to make it really like useful. basically they'll ask people, was this useful? Did you like this update for the day? Did you like this piece of information? They give a bunch of interesting like examples, like someone, because you basically can tie it to your Gmail and to your calendar. So someone was like planning a trip to Sedona. So when they woke up in the morning, they had this little report, and it was like, hey, you're doing this trip to Sedona, you have like a toddler, and here's like, a packing list of clothing we'd recommend you pack for that
Right.
trip because the weather in Sedona is going to be XYZ. That's sort of useful. Like, that's something that I would probably go out and just search for myself to figure out. But then if you get told it before you have to ask, that definitely reduces friction on, what you're researching online. So I think that's an interesting use case. Another person was planning a trip to, or was going to be in London planning a trip. I sort of hate all the planned trips. Okay, I
I
have a
knew it.
massive
Oh,
bone
I
to
know. I
pick
was gonna
for
say,
planning trip travel
I'm
things
with
because I
you,
tried
man.
using
I'm
AI to
gonna
do
check.
that this week and it was terrible. But anyways, um, but anyway, someone's going to London
Personal.
and they love to run, and so it recommended when you get to London, you're going to be here. Here's like some good running trails around you. So like maybe that's useful, right? Like, but like I don't know. Then the pessimistic part of me is like, do we want to be told? Do we want to be just given information that we'll likely need without asking for it, or do we like to ask for it? I don't really know where we fall on that. Like, it is useful, but for all the useful ones, I wonder like how many. Here's a piece of information that you're like, okay, this is completely irrelevant. I don't care about. So I think if they can balance that well, it will be a good tool. But that's what my big question marks
Well,
are.
okay. Well, let me ask you this, right? Because it does have a curate button on it, and it does allow you to continue to curate. So I think what I was surprised at was right out of the box, it was asking me about like, again, things that I'm like just genuinely interested in, and not something I had just asked about or anything like that. It just had kind of taken the totality of my memory and figured that out. So maybe a question for you, Jay. First of all, Jaden, do you have memory toggled on, and if so, do you find that helpful?
Of course, anyone that has a privacy issue with memory being toggled on, sorry, but the whole internet tracks everything you do, no matter what. There's nothing you can do
100%.
to escape it.
100, and so well, so
It's
that's my
way more
question then, right?
useful.
So I agree, right? I mean, I kind of actually have two ChatGPT accounts. One I use for demos because I work with a lot of large companies, and so I have one that doesn't have memory toggled on. Otherwise, it would be like, didn't you just ask me this yesterday or whatever? But
Right.
like, and then my pro account, which has memory toggled on, and I find it really useful. And Jaden, you and I were talking to some folks at Google, I think, either right before I/O or something like that, just about how when Google search is trying to get into the head of, the user, right? And saying like, hey, here's what might be useful for you. I think that's very, very hard because the stuff I search for is so random. You know what I mean? Like I'm
Mhm.
searching for stuff for my kids or, hey, how does this work or something like this. ChatGPT is a little different because it's more conversational. So I'm not just going to be having totally random conversations about everything. I mean, the most
Yeah.
random thing might be, oh, I can't get my panini maker to work or something, which happened last night, or something like that, right? But then it'll know I only had one conversation about that. But it really does kind of pick up again the totality of memory and figure that out. And the other cool thing that I liked about this is that the interface is great. Now, interface is not everything, but interface is a lot. And
Mhm.
when it sort of says like, okay, what are we missing out of this? And I was like, well, I'm kind of a little more on the AI news front. I don't really need to learn about LinkedIn every day or anything like that. And then, but so you can curate it. It's in
You
these
can tweak
cards
it.
that are super useful. Say again.
So you can like tweak it. You can give it like, hey, I'm not really interested in
100%.
XYZ. Okay, that's
100%.
super cool.
That's what it's expecting, and there's a giant curate button. It actually really says right up front, like, "You tell us, this is just what we are thinking about,"
That's
to kind of,
awesome.
like, get you started on it. So to me, again, sometimes we say, "This is gonna be a whole new way of interacting with AI." I don't think that, right? I think that the big thing that it's lacking, even though, Jaden, it says it has it, but I have not had great success with integrating with, Google Calendar and Gmail. And ever
On
since
this product or on past products?
kind of on anything, have you? Do you
No,
have
never. It's
success
never
with it?
worked for me. No.
Same. Okay, I'm glad to hear you say that. So, folks, one of the things, so again, I go out and do a lot of trainings with companies, and I think one of the things that is important to note always when you're doing sort of like AI adoption stuff, which I do a lot of, is what doesn't work well, because I think that that leads to a lot of disenchantment, right, man? So, like, so one of these things is that people are like, well, I really wanted to do decks because I needed to do slide decks. I'm like, you know what? It just doesn't do it that well right now. It just doesn't. And same with, I don't know, Excel. If you can't really trust Excel, then what's sort of the point? But then most importantly, on Gmail and Calendar, can it help me do this? Because that's really the personal assistant that everybody's looking for. I have not. Yeah, does Gemini work pretty well in Gmail? Yeah, but even then, not always great. And that should be a no-brainer. That should be a
Yep.
slam dunk. So I think in this, it's saying it can also integrate with your calendar and Gmail. I didn't even try it. I sort of only got it very, very recently anyway. So I haven't tried that. But that's my problem with it, is that some of the stuff that we're still waiting on, Jaeden, hasn't really materialized yet.
I agree with you, and it drives me nuts. And so, I mean, that's basically a huge thing that you and I try to do on this podcast for, for listeners is when there's these big announcements and the capabilities are announced, they very often are more hype than reality and actually getting it to do the thing. And so that's what we're basically trying to do on this podcast is dispel that. We'll go test it out live. I remember when the first Gmail calendar integration was coming into ChatGPT and we were trying to integrate it and we couldn't get it going on the show. Like, we're going to be honest and tell you guys what these tools are capable of doing so you don't get stuck on the same loops as us. So yeah, and I think that is a letdown. One thing that I do think is really cool with this Pulse that I think is going to be really useful and maybe will completely dominate an entire industry is newsletters.
Yeah.
I know a guy that has 1 million subscribers on his newsletter. Shout out to Rowan Chung for the
Mhm.
rundown. I think over 1 million subscribers on his AI
Yep.
News newsletter. I'm curious to see how this impacts that. I think when you have an email newsletter list, like I'm not too worried about him to be honest, and his because if you are one of the people that is subscribed to his newsletter list and you're used to getting in your email, you probably do it like when you're at work, you kind of have it set into your rhythm and you're going to go read that and get the information. But I do wonder in the future as if this gains traction, like I think there's going to be less and less new subscribers to those newsletters
Yeah.
because basically like if this really worked the way that you would hope, why would I need a newsletter? I just say, look, I'm interested in AI news. Please give me like a 2 sentence summary on the top 5 stories every morning. I open up my app and I get that like, right there. And then you can, the thing that I think is cool is you can customize it and fine tune it. Whereas like if I'm getting a newsletter from somebody on a general, like maybe I love baseball and I got a baseball newsletter every morning. Well, maybe they talk about some teams that I just like, I just hate those teams. I don't want to know anything about them. Those are my
Right.
rivals, right? Like maybe, I don't know, like, or you could imagine there's different things. Maybe I'm a car guy, but I absolutely hate Ford. Just give me like Toyota and Tesla news. That's all I want, right? I don't know,
Right.
whatever.
Right.
And so what's cool with this is you can get the customization. You could tell it that and you will get that. Whereas with general newsletters, you don't get it. Plus there's ads in newsletters. Plus there's, like, I mean, the customization is really cool. So I think that could absolutely kill that entire industry. So much so to the point where OpenAI addressed this, and when they were talking to TechCrunch, and they were like, "No, like, don't worry, it's just something to like add on." But I think journalists I saw were like really worried that it was going to further dilute and bring down clicks to news websites and stuff like that. I'm not sure how I feel about that because I think at the same time they could just cite the sources and maybe you're going to do more clicks because you weren't looking at
Mhm.
all of those stories anyways, right? So I think there's always the argument to be made on both sides of that. But at the end of the day, as far as how people actually use the tool, I think that is going to be a really big adoption that's incredibly useful.
Yeah, I agree, and I think the difference between newsletters and news and everything like that is that this talks to you right away. It also if it knows that you just went through I think on the demo like ACL surgery, it'll be like, hey man, how's it going? Like just want to sort of like check it. It's just cool, you know what I mean? Like it's a cool
Mm.
check in. I can see this sort of taking off. I guess we'll find out. It'll be really interesting to sort of see how this, interrupts workflows or helps people with workflows or sort of like speeds it along. Speaking of workflows, guys, as we wrap up, if you have not checked out AIbox.ai, check it out. Oh my gosh, Jaeden, the new features on this in terms of like building out workflows goes so far beyond what it was even just with allowing you to compare different models against each other. My favorite use case around this, I don't know how much I pay. As I just said, you already know I pay $200 a month just for one of my ChatGPT accounts. So the fact that Jaeden can do this on $19 a month on AI Box, but also build out workflows in a super simple non-tech way is one of the coolest products out there. Check it out, AIbox.ai. Jaeden, thank you for building that, and we will see you all next time.
And if you manage to stay to this point in the podcast, you think it's already wrapped up. Connor already did the ad, but you are one of the lucky people who I couldn't end this show without giving you a couple of the memes in the comment section on Sam Altman's post. My favorite one was talking about this new Pulse thing. Someone says, Pulse has no clue what's waiting for it. LOL. And then the meme is a guy with a platter holding a Slack logo with 252 Slack notifications and someone with a Gmail platter that has 41,000 Gmail notifications and it says your usual 9 a.m., sir. I thought that was pretty awesome. And then there's another one of Sam Altman and it says just need 200 more trillion and all your fresh water and electricity. That was pretty hilarious.
Wow,
So anyway,
Easter egg. It's like a Marvel ending to this thing.
a
Like if you stay
Marvel
long enough.
ending. If you stay to the end of the ad read on the episodes, you might just get something special. All right. Thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in. We'll catch you guys all in the next episode.